Hello, this is Ken Ferrie with this week's Boots in the Field report. I don't appreciate this cold weather when I'm doing cattle chores, but it's great for killing bugs and resetting the soil, so I guess we have to take it. We had great attendance and participation at our winter virtual college. We had great questions from all over the Midwest and Canada, and I thought I would touch on some of those questions here in the next few podcasts. First question coming in from Northeast South Dakota. We have a couple of fall tillage systems. Some gets disc ripped and some gets chisel plowed. We were planning on using our high-speed disc or our VT super coulter to level for the seedbed in the spring. From what I'm seeing here at the college, looks like you would prefer I use the VT super coulter for our seedbed preparation. Well, that's a great question. Either tool would create a pretty nice seedbed. The big question is, what tillage system are you trying to accomplish? Horizontal or vertical? If the plan is to be in a vertical format, we first have to go back to that fall tillage. Did you achieve full width shatter in the top 4 to 6 inches of soil? Now, this is accomplished through depth of tool, speed, and shank spacing. How I like to set fall tillage in a vertical environment is raise the front cutters. Raise them to a point that you still have residue flowing through the machine, but not doing much of the tillage. Then dig across behind that machine and looking for shattering the full width of the machine down 4 to 6 inches from the surface. Once this has been accomplished, then go ahead and move the cutters down to achieve the residue level that you want on top. As a rule of thumb, half your shank width will need to be your tillage depth. Now, this is a lot easier to do on a chisel plow that is set up on 14 to 16 inch spacings, meaning that you're running 7 to 8 inches deep. But on a disc ripper, for instance, set up at 30 inch spacings, it would mean tillage down to the depth of 15 inches. Now, this usually taps out horsepower or traction or both. Most disc rippers were built for horizontal system, where you can leave columns of untilled soil all the way to the surface. Your horizontal pass in the spring will shear these columns off, creating a uniform seedbed. Remember that your super coulter levels from the top. It will not take these columns out, which will cause a rough ride from everyone from the sprayer to the planter, as well as uneven growth in your corn stand. The corn growing where the shank ran in that shattered soil will grow faster than corn growing in that untilled column. One way to tell, next spring, drive your pickup crossways of your tillage. If everything is bouncing off the dash and you're bouncing in the seat, you do not have full width shatter. At this point, I would use the high-speed disc, or you'll not be very happy with your crop uniformity. Now, if the pickup pulls down under load and it feels soft and squishy on you, and there's nothing bouncing off the dash, you have full width shatter. At that point, I would use the super coulter. Another question from Ontario. Does vertical tillage run over wet soil create a drastic density layer? How concerned should we be with how dry the soil below the vertical disc is? Vertical tillage harrows won't put in a drastic density change running wet soils, but they could create some clods coming off those disc blades. The bigger issue is wheel tracks. In a vertical system, the biggest challenge we have is wheel tracks. So when we decide if we're going to run the tillage tool today, it has to be dry enough to support the tractor weight and the implement weight. You'll have to run the tillage tool deep enough to take out the tracks of the tractor and the implement. If we're out there and we're sinking in with that tractor, putting in pinch rows with that tractor, they're going to show up in the crop. Plants growing in those wheel tracks are going to be slower. In a conventional horizontal tillage system, your field cultivator would take out those tractor tracks and would keep that seedbed sacred. Compaction put in by horizontal tillage is more uniform, and it isn't as easy to see from the road. Wheel track compaction in vertical till is very evident from the road, because while the plants in the wheel tracks are stunted, the rest of the field is growing like crazy. Third question here comes from Michigan. If I don't put gang angle on my vertical harrow, I can't get the weeds out. How do you manage weeds? Well, that's a good tell. If your vertical tillage is taking out the weeds, it is not vertical tillage. Vertical tillage, we have to take the same weed management regimen as our guys do in no-till and strip-till. Weeds will need to be handled with the herbicide. Remember, vertical harrows do not remove existing horizontal layers in your soil. Neither does freezing or thawing. If you haven't taken out past layers, you are still in a horizontal system. In that case, you may want gang angle to clean up the weeds, and next fall get those old layers out, and then run your harrow without gang angle next spring, but switch your herbicide program up to help you manage those weeds. We kicked off our winter meetings, had a couple of great meetings last week with Trainer fertilizer growers and Donovan co-op growers. Looking forward to seeing all you guys as we work through the first round of winter meetings. We're working through our winter yield map meetings, so if you haven't already sent your data in, let's get that done so we can get you scheduled for your meeting. Anyone who needs Section 80s done on newly purchased ground, let's get those in as well. Now, if you're not a Crop Tech customer, just call the office and we can help you with your Section 80. To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.